Coming up on this episode of the Struggling Mind podcast.
Then with everyone, I was sort of addicted to tramadol. I was given tramadol for long-term pain relief, which is never, it should have been ever prescribed for longevity anyway. And I was on it for about 2 years, Lee. And at the same time, I was on amitriptyline and in abusive relationships. So I suppose at that time, that was probably the hardest time of my life because there was an accumulation of a few things.
Before we go any further, can you do me a favour and just show some love for the podcast and hit the subscribe button? Doesn't matter what platform you're listening to the podcast on, because it will just help to share these incredible stories from these amazing people. Thank you so much. Right, back to the episode.
Chat, I'm really excited. I remember the first time we done, was it a podcast or a live?
You came on mine, you did a live with me, and then I did the Women's Week, didn't I?
That's right. And also, you done one before that. I think I was your first person. I was your first person to interview you.
Yeah, you were one of mine as well. And I think it was just when we both started doing the lives and we were like really nervous. I'm still nervous now. I still get butterflies every time
Don't worry.
I do
Listen,
one.
I know you've got so much value to add and so much quality. And do you know what? The best thing about this, Mel, is I get to know you. You know, I know what you do.
Yeah.
And we will drift into that because it obviously cross paths. But it's a good chance to get to know you because I know for a fact that you are such an incredible person. Such an incredible person. And your energy and everything about you is just, you just gravitate towards it. And we've been friends for what, a couple of years now? Like virtually.
Yeah, maybe more than that, actually. I think it's probably more like 3, nearly probably 4 years when I started Men Against Mountains. And I suppose some of the original, like the team as such, as I call it, the original team of when we all started getting to know it and we started building this community. Yeah, I suppose, yeah. And you and Rob and there's a few others that go back as well.
It's mad, isn't it? It's mad that, we all started for a very own personal reasons. And then it kind of led into a space where we're all now supporting each other and other people. And it's growing in that sense. I don't know about you, but when I first started doing it, I was shitting myself. I was really shitting myself. But I had to create something for me that I didn't have anymore. I'd moved, I was in a foreign country, I was living in like in the middle of nowhere, and I couldn't speak the language, couldn't do anything, and I was like, well, what do I do? And Instagram, I was a bit, what do you share? How much do you keep in? And then one day I was like, you know what, sod it. I need to start showing me. And what better way to do it is to make myself accountable and put it out there and just kind of watch myself grow. And obviously I've been following your journey closely. And as I said to you, I was telling somebody about you the other day, and I was saying that it's incredible that a woman can communicate with a whole plethora of men. And get them talking. But when you ask a man to do the same thing, there's almost like this resistance that pops up, in that sense. But anyway, for you, let's get right into it. First thing is 3 questions. I ask every single one of my guests 3 questions, okay?
Okay.
I think you may have had them before, but we'll just pretend that you haven't. So, you up for that?
Yeah, definitely. Let's go.
First question is, if you had to delete all of your apps across all social media, all platforms, and keep 3, what 3 would you keep?
Spotify, definitely, straight up, because the music is my life. I listen to music every single day. There's not a day that goes back when I don't put Spotify on and get my playlist up and running. Obviously Instagram has got to be. I'm trying to think of the third, because I don't really do Facebook. I'm not too bothered about that, so that would go. That wouldn't be a problem. Probably my banking app. I know that sounds really stupid, but I'm that skint most of the time. I have to keep making sure I've got money in my account. And it's a nightmare going through the other way. It's just easy to do your fingerprint, bang, straight in, see your balance out, instead of having to then put these codes in all the time to get like onto the actual internet via the other way, sort of thing. So yeah, probably my banking app.
So you're banking your Spotify. And what else? What was the third one? So with banking, Spotify, and
Instagram, obviously.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Gotta love that. Gotta love a bit of Instagram. Okay, second question. If you had a superpower, what would it be and why?
Probably to go back in time travel, if that could be still a superpower. Maybe change and tweak a few things.
Well, I don't see anything worth
Yeah,
changing, but I suppose that's a personal choice, isn't it? And of course, you can go
yeah,
back in time.
but I wouldn't change anything dramatically. It would just be a few tweaks.
Can I ask what they will be, or are you going to keep them to yourself?
Probably to work harder at school. But I was always so tired all the time from swimming because that was my life. Probably avoid a few people that have come into my life, but they've given me lessons. So yeah, who knows? It's such a hard question because even though you those things in your life that you think, oh, I wish I'd never gone through them, you've gone through them and you're here now and you're the person you are. So maybe they shape us. I don't know, but.
I think they do. I think any experience we go through or any experience that we experience, shapes us because we remember it. It becomes part of that kind of memory muscle. Do you know what I mean? And I suppose that and that can be triggered by anything as well. So, yeah, I like that. I like the going back into time.
I think I know so much more about men now than I ever have in my whole life. These last 4 years, I've learned so much more about men that maybe when I say about tweaking things, I would have been able to have my eyes a little bit more open within my relationships with men, especially with my children's dad. Because there just wasn't anything around like there is now, like the mental health support and stuff. Or maybe I would have seen signs within him that I could have helped support him more. I don't know. But I suppose, yeah, because that was probably the biggest thing of my life. And one of my biggest hurts is when we split up, the 20 years and then we split up and I'm hurt and I'm heartbroken. So with those tweaks, yeah, maybe if I knew what I knew now, then maybe I would have we would still been together, maybe,
Yeah. I mean, just to kind of pull that apart a little bit, it's a two-way thing, ain't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Maybe
But we
he
were
might be
so
able to say,
alike. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, we were like both stubbornly independent. I've talked about this before.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? Hindsight is a powerful thing, and I think, like you, over the last 3 or 4 years, I've really started to understand myself, and I've started to understand my relationship with men, and why I put such a huge barrier between me and them. And I think through the work that I've been doing, I've started to understand and expose myself to those things that I would normally run away from. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, third and final question, and then we'll get right into it.
Yeah.
Favorite sandwich?
Ready salted cheese.
Ready salted crisp and cheese sandwich. I like.
Yeah, just really simple. Yeah, I'm not a fussy girl when it comes. I like obviously tasting different foods and trying different stuff, but when it comes down to a crisp sandwich, it's got to just be grated cheese, maybe a little slither of mayo. Just simple.
Just so it's not dry. I like that. I love it.
I like my ready salted crisps.
Yeah. Mel, first of all, listen, thank you for giving up your time and coming onto the Struggling Mind podcast. I really appreciate that. As I said earlier on, we've known each other for 3 years now. We've not physically met, but we connect and get engaged quite a lot in that sense, and have little check-ins and little chats. And, I feel like you're one of my buddies. Do you know what I mean? So that's why it was important for me to get you on and talk about you. I know what you do. And as I said, we'll kind of drift into that, but I just kind of want to know about you, in that sense. And I know some of the things that you do, but what was it for you that made you decide that you wanted to kind of start to talk about your journey, and your journey with getting to where you are and understanding who you are?
I suppose when I go back into my 20s, so I'm 52 now, so probably 30 years of take a few years off of that, because I started speaking about it about four years ago. But yeah, sort of 26, 30 years of hurts that build up, and you're learning and you're discovering yourself. And yeah, I think after the abusive relationship and being addicted to the tramadol and all the horrible things that happened to me within these last 8 years came to a head, I think. And probably for the first time in my life, I didn't want to be here. And I had to do something about it. I was lucky that I got my clarity, and I was really lucky that I had a bit of a wake up call and the near death experiences that I had to kick myself up my bum and change a lot of things that probably and deal with a lot of things that had been in my past as well. As I said, like 20 odd years. And I think even now, like, your story never ends. You continuously add into that story. You know, your life doesn't end just because you've just shared your previous life, you know. And I haven't spoken about everything yet. I'm still dealing with a few of those things. And, you know, there will be a time when I'm ready to do that. But yeah, I think it was just that, right, if I don't do this and I don't take accountability, and sharing your story is such a hard thing to do, and putting it out there to the world. And only my closest people knew things that had been going on. I hadn't shared it openly. And I think with the social media and stuff like that, it gives you that platform to be able to air it in a place that maybe you don't know how many people that will touch. But individually, if I had to share that to all my friends and to share, it was able to me to get it out in one place once, and then sort of have the responses I got from that and worked through that afterwards. But yeah, individually, if I had to keep telling that over and over again, I don't know how that would have been. It would have been hard to do that.
Mm. And so the first time that you decided that, you know, this is it for me, I'm gonna do this once, and we're gonna see where it's gonna land, and I'm gonna take it from there. What was that like? Like that kind of like, okay, you're got your page, right? This write about me.
Yeah, I mean, I did it on my personal account first of all, Lee, and then Men Against Mountains was created from that because of the responses I got mainly from men. So it was inbox messages saying, you know, oh, Mel, can I talk to you? I'm going through this, going through that. But for me personally, it just felt so much lighter to just be able to put it out there. And I think probably put a few people straight in things that they'd perceived about me, maybe. And I'm not so bothered about what other people think. But I think when you've got a group of people that you've grown up with for the last 20, 30 years and you don't see them anymore, and then they have their views on things, or there's, not rumours, but Chinese whispery type things and stuff. So I just wanted to put the record straight with all what was happening and what had happened.
That's a very brave move.
Yeah.
Very courageous.
Yeah. But it's as we know that when you do it, it's that first step to your recovery. I found this quote which I wanted to share with you. I don't know whether you've seen the book, film The Green Book.
No.
It's an amazing film. I've only seen a few clips of it, but it's something I'm going to be watching this weekend. And there's a quote from it from Tony Valalong or something. It says, "The world's full of lonely people afraid to make the first move." And that really hit me to the point where we're all just so scared to make that move to share our experiences, and it becomes isolating when we don't. We're alone until we put that out there. We're alone.
Yeah.
And it's, so that quote really sort of stuck with me. And yeah, it resonates with that first move that I made to to get it out there, and I haven't stopped.
You know, the first time that you did it for you, was it like a kind of freedom? Like,
Yeah.
did you feel as if like you kind of finally let go of something that was obscuring your vision, that was almost kind of someone like holding their hand against your forehead, and even though you're moving, you're not actually moving, and you know, you just feel like you're walking on the same spot all the time. But as soon as you kind
Yeah.
of, as soon as you kind of shared that, I don't know about you, but there was like it's like someone gave me my wings back.
Yeah, yeah. But it's also not just the mental release, it's the physical, what you hold in your body as well. Like,
Mm.
there is, you know, they say the weight that you carry on your shoulders, but that it is so true. My whole
Yeah.
body posture changed. I felt a release of just an almost like a calm and a, you know, then I gave my chance. It was giving myself that chance to now learn from all that what's happened, and now my self-awareness was growing, and yeah, that peace within yourself. You know, it takes time, and it didn't all happen just overnight, but it was that first step, and it was the start of me being who I am now 4 years later. Still working on it, still learning, still trying to work through, navigate things. But I just think if I hadn't done it when I did, I don't know whether I'd be here now. I really don't know whether I'd actually, that's a sad thought, but I don't think I would have been.
I echo that. You know, I think that's just the scary thing is what is on the other side. And because we've never been there, what we do is we start to make it up in our head. And then all of a sudden we'll find a line and start pulling it. And then we'll start catastrophizing and going, fuck that. I am not going there. I'd rather
Yeah.
stay here. And I think there was similarities between what you're saying, you know, and how I was that it comes to a point where you think, if I don't do this now, I know what I'm going to do,
Mm.
because I've visited that place a couple of times, and you know, you can romanticize about it to a point. Do you know what I mean? But then I started to shift that energy and thinking, okay, what can I do? How can I change this? You know, what do I need to do? Because it was easy for me to blame, and it was easy for me to kind of say it was other people or the way that I was brought up, and you know, they're all factors, but I was still making the choices. Do you know what I mean? But I never saw that, because all I was
Yeah.
trying to do was hide the way that I was feeling inside. Do you know what I mean? And mask all that pain and all the bitterness and all that, everything that I was carrying, you know. And as you said, when you do start talking about it, it's not just a mental release, but it's a physical release. You know, it's like crying. You know, when you see people go, I don't want to cry, I
Yeah.
don't want to cry. You're holding it in. So
Yeah.
it's manifesting itself in your body somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, we do hold pain in our body. It's really true. And because I was
mm,
dealing with chronic pain as well, Lee, that that is so true, that there's the connection with the physical and the mental.
absolutely.
Not that I'm not in any pain now, but it's definitely decreased because I've let certain things out. Stress is held in the body, you know,
Mm,
and that
yeah.
can make you really fucking poorly.
It's true, man. I think we kind of think a lot of illnesses are, you know, we know what the symptoms are, but sometimes we don't, you know, and our body will give us so many red flags, but we ignore
Yeah,
them because maybe we're just not familiar with them, or we don't know what they are, or, you know, we don't pull it apart and go, if I've got a sore neck, is it because maybe I'm driving wrong or I'm always leaning like this? But we think it's an ailment. We think it's, you know, oh my God, I think I'm
yeah,
going to die. That we will catastrophize it straight away, or we'll just ignore it
yeah.
until it gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
For you, once you started to um, talk, was it easy for you to start to find the words to articulate the way that you was feeling?
Not at first. I still don't find them now.
You do a good job, put it that way.
I'm definitely a better writer, putting things down on paper and getting it out than I am speaking it. Um, but I still have to speak it because, you know, do people actually read certain things? You know, when, especially like on the Instagram type thing, do people are more likely to actually read a great big long caption and pages, or will they listen to you? So I think there's a nice mixture of both with myself. um yeah, it was, I think it just took so much time. It was like a tree. I had all these branches and I couldn't get it all out all at once. It took, as I said, it takes time. um yeah, it's definitely felt good, that's for sure. Trying to, and I'm, as I said, I was learning so much about myself during that time as well. So every time I had a conversation with someone, or I put a post out on Instagram, or I had a one-on-one conversation with somebody, I was not so much learning about that, I was learning about myself as well.
Mm. Yeah, that's the best thing about that, isn't it? I think for me, once I started to learn about, I always wanted to know who Lee was. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, I wanted to know who I was, not the version that I was showing up in or presenting in, but who I was. And sometimes it's difficult because you lose that person so many years ago that you forget where to start looking for or what they look like. And I think when you do start to find yourself, that's when the adventure begins. Because
yeah,
you're
that,
leading because you're
yeah,
leading you. You're not being led by someone else's expectations and someone else's limitations and beliefs and how they see the world. It's like, oh my God, what do I want to do? And all of a sudden, this world just opens, and there's loads and loads of opportunities that come with that as well. Do you know what I mean? In that sense, but it's still scary. It's still daunting.
yeah. The
It just comes with,
self-awareness is everything, Lee, don't you think? It's
yes.
when you accept and then allow that to grow within you. And it comes at different ages for different people. Like I've met some really self-aware 20-year-olds that are really like quite worldly and wise at a young age. And then you meet old people that are still learning about themselves. And I think it obviously depends on what life challenges you've had and the situations and things like that. And there's never a one size fits,
Mm,
not putting everybody in a box and think everyone's going to deal with things the same way. And you're not going to have that wake up call and that clarity at the same time either in your lives. And I was lucky, I feel very fortunate and lucky uh, to have that, because not many people still don't ever have it.
mm. I totally agree with that. So when you started that for your healing, how did it start to help your healing, in regards to your relationship with yourself, and obviously the relationship that you had with the kind of medication that you were kind of relying on?
Yeah, that was a really awful time. Then with everyone, I was sort of addicted to tramadol. I was given tramadol for long-term pain relief, which is never, it should have been ever prescribed for longevity anyway. And I was on it for about 2 years, Lee. And at the same time, I was on amitriptyline and in abusive relationships. So I suppose at that time, that was probably the hardest time of my life, because there was accumulation of a few things. Um, but I learned more about myself after that situation than during it, obviously, like we do. Um, I think half of it was the acceptance that I couldn't change what had happened, and that certain things were out of my control. Um, and learning to let go and just thinking, there's no point me holding on to this trauma. Trauma is so hard. Trauma growth is so hard.
God,
Um,
yeah.
it's so hard to navigate. And I think I am still, part of me is still learning now about that situation. And I'm allowing that. But like we say, it's accountability, responsibility, acceptance is one of the major things that, we can't change what happened, but we can change what happens now. I can change, how I deal with any situations now coming in my future, and I will
Yeah.
probably deal with those a lot differently. But a lot of it's muddling through. A lot of
Ah,
it's like learning, making mistakes and getting back up and falling back down again. And like, how many times do you fall? Is it accepting in life that, you know, something could happen next week that could just literally whack me off my knees again? Um, So accepting that life isn't always going to be rosy, and the highs are going to come, but we've got to have the lows too.
I love that. That's so true. Yeah, that again, that's another lesson that I learned, you know. So the reason for this podcast is because it's to give people space, you know, and it's for us to educate ourselves and each other and pass on knowledge and understanding and empowerment and all those bougie words, right? All those bougie words. But really it's about having a conversation and talking about stuff that we were scared to talk about and that
Yeah.
we were taught to hide, taught to fear, taught that if we spoke about it, people would kind of, you know, look at us differently. But now we're in an environment and a society where we're actually going, hang on a fucking second. I need to do this for me. And I'm doing it for me because it's going to help me and it's going to help me heal because we are, and I'm generalizing here as well. There's probably going to be a lot of people out there saying, I don't do it, but we do. There is a part of us that wants to be accepted by people, that wants to fit in and that wants to be noticed and stuff. And sometimes we'll do things in order to do that. And it's not who we are. And I think for me, learning about myself is almost like being a toddler again. You know, you said about falling over. Toddlers fall over, but the falling over doesn't bother them. Their effort and their focus is getting back up again. Do you know what I mean? Like they know they're going to fall over. It's part of it. It's part of the whole process. But for them, it's like, how quick can I get back up and get to that place that I'm going to? And that's what I'm starting to learn is I'm going to fall over, but my destination is still the same.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That falling over is just part of the process. And it comes back to exactly what you said is that acceptance. I accept that I'm never going to be perfect. I accept that everything that I do for myself is always going to come from a place of love because I hated myself for so many years. I know what that feels like now.
Yeah.
I know what that feels like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I know how to do that and I know how to fucking damage myself and all that sort of stuff. But what I didn't know how to do was open myself up to be loved and to accept it. Because if we don't think we're deserving of something, we don't go in search of it. You know, we run from it, you know, in that sense. And I just think it's important that as people, we share things. And that we understand how important it is to sit with that person and be part of what they're going through. Don't solve it. Don't find a way to think it, but just to sit with that person and just let them find their way, but know they're not on their own. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that somebody like you, like myself, that is healing from, we have that ability to understand because we've been there. Do you know what I mean? Like in that sense. And so for you, when you started to understand how important you were to you, what was that like?
I think it's quite an alien feeling at first because, as you said, like we're so used to only showing the part we want to show to other people, and does everybody actually share their whole self? Do we keep something back to ourselves for ourselves because it's, I don't know, ours? I don't know. It's a, are we allowed to do that, or we? And I think we're conditioned to only show that because we're so worried, as you said right from the beginning, how people are going to perceive you. They might be put off by you. They might not like you anymore. And this goes around in your head. And it's like, yeah, self-love, learning to like yourself first, because you can't go straight into loving yourself. You have to start liking yourself a little bit. And I think that takes time. And it obviously takes letting go of, you know, you aren't what people hurt, you know, the people that hurt you, you aren't that. You shouldn't be that anymore. You're not that person. That's on them. But we hold this ourselves and we blame ourselves and we sabotage ourselves. So yeah, I actually am probably one of the happiest I've ever been. And I haven't got absolutely anything. Like, I've stripped my life back to such basics now. I spend a lot of time on my own, and I like that. It's strange, but again, it's that acceptance, and it's just like I actually like myself now more than I wish I liked myself like I do now in my 20s. yeah, it's come. I'm lucky. It's come in my 50s. So the next 20, if I've got 20 years left, or 25, 30 years left, I can be happy within myself now. And that's a wonderful feeling to have now. To know that the next 30 years of my life, doesn't matter what happens, I'm not going to let anyone take that away from me anymore.
I
That
love that.
boundary is
I
in
love
place. What do I say? It's like a castle with a moat round it and a fire-breathing dragon. That's my
that.
boundary now.
Set the dragon on and pull the drawbridge up. You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
is my little
Like,
kingdom.
yeah, it is. It's that. Do you know what it is? That's a perfect way to. We are our own kingdom. That is such a lovely word to use when you're self-loving yourself.
Mm.
Be the king or the queen of your castle.
So, are we okay to talk a little bit about the abusive relationship? If not,
Yeah,
we can steer away from it. It's
no,
entirely up to you. You know,
no, that's fine.
for you, when did you actually admit to yourself that the relationship was abusive?
Do you know what? I didn't know, because I
Did
was
it?
during it was so mentally tiring. He was chipping away at me over such a long period of time. We were together, what, 3 years? So at the start of the relationship, he was, I know now, love bombing me. So it was, you are my world. I've got nobody apart from you, making me feel like I was so important to him. Oh, Lee, it's like, if I look back now and I think, why didn't I notice what he was doing? But I'd never been in that sort of relationship before. I'd only been obviously with my kid's dad, and I was with him for 20 odd years, from 18. And then I had a few years off, dated, but then I got into this relationship. And he had a very complicated past himself. What I know now is, on our very first date, he lied to me. He was pretending to be this person. So all the things he told me was actually somebody else that he knew. So he was almost
Really?
living, yeah, he was living this life of somebody else. And he told me obviously some really huge lies that I don't know, again, was that for me to love him more? Because I loved him anyway. He didn't need to do that. And that's the sad thing about it, is that I would have fallen in love with him anyway, without all those lies, and this feeling sorry for him, and caring and nurturing him and nourishing him and looking after him. And that's what I did. And I used to go to work. He used to go to work. But he was even lying about going to work. He actually didn't have a job. So he'd leave the house at 6:30 in the morning and then moan about that. Oh, I've got to get up, blah, 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 and actually be going to a house, and he was growing like weed and stuff. So that's where all his money was coming from. I didn't have a clue. I knew he smoked, obviously.
Damn.
I know. How mad is that? So
Mm-mm.
yeah, he was.
It's
So I
it's
didn't have
not it's not it's not it's not mad. It's not mad.
I
Go on,
just
please.
didn't. Yeah, this happens. I didn't have a clue. I knew he smoked. I knew that well, he told me he'd been in prison before. Um, that was a lie. He hadn't been in prison. But I don't know whether that was the first, him telling me that he'd been in prison and he'd been violent was the first part of him trying to scare me.
Right.
And if I look back now, then I think that, again, that story was put in there, and he'd act out all this thing, he'd act out all the things. He'd be really animated. So if he'd told me a story, he'd walk across the room, and he'd, like, if he was going on about digging a hole, he'd dig a hole and be animated with it. So it's almost like the more he told these stories, the more he believed them himself. I used to call Tuesdays Terror Tuesday, because on Tuesdays I used to go to work. I had 2 part-time jobs, so I'd work in a clothing store, and I was till manager at the time, and it was like a 30-hour week. But on a Tuesday, on my day off, I used to go to help my friend out who ran a cleaning business, and we'd go to all these massive big houses and clean these houses. And I did that to help her out, and it was a bit of extra cash as well. And on that Tuesday morning, as soon as I was in her car, I'd get a tirade of texts, abusive texts, and it didn't stop until I got home. And that happened every single Tuesday. And I realised he was trying to take me away from my friends. He'd moan if I ever saw, my mum was alive then, so my mum and my dad, if I saw them, he'd make excuses that he didn't feel very well. So all these sort of type of things was like trying to isolate me. And while I was working at the shop, I started obviously feeling like pain in my foot, and then I had the diagnosis. It took a long time, but obviously that's when I started the tramadol for the chronic pain. So at the same time of being in this relationship, he was saying to me, "You're fucking mental, you are. You haven't taken you're moaning about your pain, and you're down about your pain, but you haven't taken your medication." And I'd be like, "Yeah, I have. Like, I'd count my tablets, and I'd look at the prescription and I'd count them, and it was doing my head in. I was going like, felt like I was going crazily because I was counting them from the date of my prescription. Thought, no, I've taken the right amount today." And he'd go, "No, you're thick, you are." And he started talking to me like that. And so I'd taken another 2 tramadol. So I was near enough overdosing on this medication. And the worst part of all of it, I suppose, was I then started doubting myself. And I thought I was going mental. I honestly thought I was this horrible person. He was like, I mean, this is just the out there. It was chipping every day at me. You know, there was remarks. He didn't want me wearing certain clothes. And I had my children. This is the most upsetting. I had my children. Harper and Marley were still really young then, and I had to hide this from them. I had to hide my pain from them. I had to hide the way he was treating me from them. And then he started working away. Well, apparently started working away, and that was such a relief for me because he'd be away half the week. But obviously, he was growing more weed in these houses. Yeah, I mean, the day, and this sounds awful, and I think for anyone that's been through abusive relationships, mentally abusive, or physically abusive relationships, and this sounds totally like, when I even say it, it's why am I even saying it? But it turned physical, and he smashed the full-length mirror over me. And he wouldn't let me leave the bedroom. The kids were at their dad's the weekend. And I asked him to leave the house because I almost had this sort of realised what he was doing. I asked him to leave, and he wouldn't leave the house. And he wouldn't let me out of the bedroom. He kept throwing me onto the bed, got my hand and was punching my hand onto his face. So my knuckle was so swollen from him. He wouldn't, just kept punching his face. So I don't know whether he was trying to make out that I was the person that was hurting him. I don't know. But yeah, he had like a little bit of a swollen cheekbone, but my hand was smashed up, and he wouldn't let me out of the bedroom. And I got really scared. I got so scared. I didn't think I was going to make it out of that room. And he smashed the mirror over me, and he just stopped. And I think he then realised how far he was going. And I had all these trickles of blood all over me where the little shards had sort of stuck in my body and stuff. And I managed to get out of the room, and I called the police, and they took him away. And I haven't seen him since. But the mental abuse carried on through texting, Facebook, friends. He was messaging all my friends, telling them that I was fucked up in the head and all that. So it didn't even stop. But the relief of being out of that relationship was, yeah, it's even made my stomach churn now, even talking about it.
Thank you for sharing. I felt every single one of those words you said. And I mean, no doubt that people listening have probably felt every single one of those shit in it. I don't even know what to say to that. I don't want to say something for the sake of saying it.
No, but I
You
think
know,
that the lies carried. The thing is, it was only afterwards that I realised that all the other things he'd spoken about were lies, and that all the puzzle pieces were joining back together. And I spoke to his ex-wife, and he'd obviously told her the same stories, and she was like, Mel, he's never like, the things he told me. He even told me that his dad chucked his mum down the stairs when she was pregnant with him, and it never happened. All these things never happened. These had happened to people that he'd known through his life, which is hard, because if he'd heard stories from other people that such awful things that happened to these people, but he'd taken them on his own, so people felt sorry for him. And it's, it's such a sad thing, because actually that nice part of him was such a wonderful human. And I will say that about him, because there was part of him that actually was all right. And yeah, he'd obviously, needed some help, it's such a shame, such a shame.
I know. A lot of that story resonates with me. You know, I was in a relationship that I was gaslit for, like, I would say the entirety of that 8 years. But I didn't know. I ignored things. I loved him. I didn't want to have a broken relationship. I thought that you had to work it, thick and thin, death and apart, sickness and health, bend and flex, whatever it was, you do it. But no one ever prepares you or tells you what a relationship should be like. No one. And you just muddle through hoping that you see more of the good side and less
Yeah.
of the bad. Mine wasn't physical. His was mental and emotional. Mine was coercive. Mine was mentally broken me down, and emotionally. I was never really in tune with my emotions anyway, but just knew how to push my buttons. You know what I mean? I really did. And so everything you were saying, I was like, every word was punching.
Yeah.
And I get that.
They chip away at. It's very clever, because when you're in a coercive relationship, right? I mean, I never put any sort of labels on it, but it's true. I was gaslit. I was coerced, and that chips. They do it over a long period of time. So that's when you start questioning yourself and your own, and that is scary. And it's took a long time. I haven't really been in a serious relationship since. That was like 8 years ago. I can't do it. I feel like I was so lucky to have the long relationship with my kid's dad. And that was my love of my life. He was the love of my life. And maybe I wanted that again, because that broke my heart. And it took me a long time to even think about being with somebody else after that ended. And I had one other relationship that, again, I suppose he never gave himself to me fully. It was a long distance relationship. So I had that in between the two. And then when I met Ant, I was just, do you know what? I was so wanting to be loved myself. I just wanted to have that, what I had with my kid's dad. And will I ever get that again? I don't know. I don't know whether I suppose that felt that first thing. I'm afraid to make that first move, like I said with that quote. I'm so scared of making that first move.
But there is a thing. The thing is that we can overcome fear, because every day we get stronger as a person. Every day we become more aware of who we are. Every day we start to give ourselves what we need. Every day that we're doing something productive for us, what it does is it starts to allow us to grow. Do you know what I mean? So of course you will.
Yeah.
You'll know when you're ready. You'll know when you're ready.
I think it's because I feel so happy now and content, and I've stripped my, like I said, I've stripped my life back. I don't want anybody to ruin that. And I'm actually, I know this sounds, again, I'm actually quite accepted the fact that I could actually live without a partner. I've got some amazing friends. I've got an amazing family. I've got my beautiful children, and I've got my mad cat. And
Mad ball cats.
well, Yeah, am I turning into this crazy cat lady?
What do you
I
mean
said,
turning? You are.
I know, but even the neighbourhood cats come to the house, like what? When you've got the amount of cats I've got, no cats really should come into that territory, but they do. They all chill out in the garden. And I'm like, there's two new cats on the neighbourhood at the moment, these two black and white massive things they are. They come and sit in my front garden and it's not in my front garden. I'm like, well, where have
This
you
is the
come
spot.
from?
This is the
Yeah,
spot, mate. You know what I mean? Come and
but
see
I'm
Mel.
actually,
Like, just
yeah.
chill.
But I'm content in the fact that, do you know what? I say this about, I would love to go off grid. When I'm in my 60s, 70s, I would either love to travel the world or go off grid and have a little wooden hut or a couple of containers stuck together, converted containers, and just live like, yeah, just live simply. I think that's where I'm the most happiest.
Mm. You said that earlier on that you've really peeled your life back.
Yeah.
And I think we have to, don't we? Like because growing up, we kind of go out and grab everything, thinking we need everything. They've got that, I'll have it. If that's what they're doing, I'll do that as well. And then all of a sudden you're laden down with all this stuff and you think, what the fuck? And it becomes overwhelming. And I'm in the same sort of space that you are. I've made my life a lot more smaller, a lot more simpler, and a lot less stress. I don't court drama now. I choose who sits at my table. It's important that I have the correct people around me. And if I don't feel that they're giving me what I need, then I can call them out on that, and go, look, we're kind of not vibing, or I can move them into the lane they need to be in. And my sister taught me that, is that you have friends, and at certain points in your life, you have to move them over
Yeah.
because you have to make room for new. You don't get rid of them, you just move them over. You know where they are. You know the kind of relationship that you've got with them. Don't snatch at things. And I've been very, very, very open and receptive to people now because people teach you, even without realizing it. People teach you so much. And I've started to learn that people's characters are the things that I gravitate to because the character stays. That's the consistency. You know what I mean? Like that other bits and pieces, people can kind of drop that sort of stuff. And I think that's why we connected. Like in the last 3 years, I've shown up as me. I've allowed that to come out. And it's really strange because we're so used to kind of controlling how much we show or what we don't show. And, I can't say this and I can't say, fuck it, I ain't got a filter that bollocks to it. I can't, I've spent too much of my life thinking about other people. Even when I have an idea, I think, oh, what would so-and-so think? And I'm like, oh, what do you think? Like, what do you want to do? What does it look like to you? And it's really hard to untangle yourself from the expectations that you had growing up that people give to you because they're not yours, they're theirs.
Yeah.
This is the world that I see it, and you're going to see it the same way because I'm teaching you. Therefore, everything I'm teaching you is a learned behavior. And as you get a bit older, just like you said yourself, you got to a point you was like, right, I need to take that control back by exercising everything that's holding me back. Let me fling the closet open, get rid of the shit. It's like a spring clean, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it is like a cleanse. And I think naturally when you do get older, especially if you're in marriages and things like that, sometimes your friend set sort of depletes a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
People grow. You do sometimes. I mean, a couple of my friends, I don't necessarily, they're not in my life anymore. We've grown apart, and as I said, those boundaries are now in place, and I just don't want to put up with that sort of drama anymore. And I'm quite lucky that I can dip in and out with my friends. I've got quite a few little friend sets, different from different parts of my life that I still see.
Yeah.
Like, and one of my oldest friends, we lived together when I was like 17, and she's really more in my life now than she was in the last 10 years because we sort of grew apart a little bit, but we're back together again now, and it's been so amazing. And she's a few years older than me, so she's so nice. But most of my other friends are younger, so I'm the mum of the group. Like, I'm the nan of the group. Like, everyone comes to me with their problems, even relationship advice, and I'm just like, why? I'm the single one. You're all in relationships, and you coming to me? Like, I'm the single one.
But why do you think
But
that
yeah,
is?
it's just putting those boundaries in place. And yeah, I'm lucky that I can dip in and out. They still invite me to everything. And if they say, why don't you come in? I can just say, because I don't want to.
Mm.
Instead of making an excuse. When I was in that abusive relationship, I was lying. I started lying because I didn't want to go to a night out. So I'd say, oh, I'm not, my foot is killing me. I can't walk. And I could have gone, but I didn't go. So it was like, as you said, you can be honest. And, it's like with the sobriety journey of not drinking. I still get some people saying, oh, go on, Mel, have a drink, have a couple of drinks. And I'm like, why are you asking me that question? Why can't you just accept that I don't want to drink anymore? Doesn't mean I'm less fun. It doesn't mean I can't have a good time. Why are you worried about whether I have a drink? You carry on and get absolutely plastered. I don't want to do that. But before, if I'd done that 10 years ago, I would have probably gone, oh yeah, oh, go on and have a couple of drinks and then feel shit. But it's so nice being in a position, just being able to be honest and just say, no, I don't want to. I'm not coming tonight. I'm not feeling it tonight. I'm tired. Or,
There's a lot of power in that, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a lot of power in saying no. And it's not like, no, fuck off. It's like, actually, no. And then going, because this. And even to the point you don't have to explain yourself.
Yeah, you just say, no, I don't want to.
Yeah. There are definitely things now that just give you this kind of like, I don't know, it's like a euphoric feeling. No, sorry, mate, I can't. Because I don't want to. That's it. Period.
I think humans, sorry, I
Go on,
just think humans, sometimes we over-explain ourselves.
Yes.
Like even in this car, probably can sometimes just naturally we do that because we want people to hear what we want to hear. Like, I can't come tonight. I'm tired. I'll make you feel better about it by me saying the reasons why we're actually, as you said, we don't have to do that. We don't.
It's like that's that. I ain't coming. Sod off.
Yeah.
So I just want to swing back to the tramadol addiction. How did you start to notice? Obviously, the reasons why you were taking them, and obviously, why you started taking more than normal was because of the fact that you were starting to doubt how many you were taking based on what your current partner was saying. So for you then, when did you start to realise that actually this is becoming quite addictive?
The day I was on the bathroom floor sweating and literally feeling sick, and I was so poorly, I nearly called an ambulance. I thought I was going to die, Lee. Like, this is just not that long after the police were called and was taken away, and I was obviously on 800. I was on 800 milligrams of tramadol, but obviously I was being tricked to take more. So some days I don't know what I was taking. I don't know how I'm like. Actually, I didn't die. My organs didn't give up. But I was also on 75 milligrams of amitriptyline as well at the same time. That's what the doctors were doing. They were upping my dose. I was saying to them, I'm this pain, I can't walk, I can't function. The pain is taken over, where obviously it was accumulation of the abuse, that holding everything in my body. And, the tramadol wasn't taking the pain away. I wasn't sleeping. So I had sleep deprivation. I felt sick. I looked at death's door as well. But yeah, I was on the floor in the bathroom. I can't really remember how I got on the floor in the bathroom. And yeah, I was not very well at all. And I managed to peel, and I always say I literally peeled myself off in a pool of sweat and I chucked all the tramadol down the toilet. And I did a cold turkey, and I didn't even tell my doctor initially. And I would not recommend it. But I do believe that if I hadn't taken such drastic measures, that I would still maybe be on them or some sort of painkiller now. And I don't take anything now apart from I'm on the amitriptyline still, but that's I'm just coming down on a lower dose of that now. So I've got myself down from 75 to 50. Now I'm on 35. And I'm slowly coming down off that, which is the correct thing to do.
I was going to say, we always make reactive decisions because we think it's the best thing to do, in that sense. And, like you said, in hindsight, I wished I'd done it a different way. Any tips for anybody that may be struggling with some form of medication addiction, maybe, you know, or anything that you can maybe say to them that maybe can make them kind of take a step back and go, hang on a second, maybe I need to check myself a little bit.
Yeah, I think that you know, some people need medication, and you know, and I think medication should always be reviewed. And I think definitely always speak to your doctor about med reviews. I've only just literally gone recently to the doctor and said, how many times have I asked this question to you? Is there a long-term damage of being on amitriptyline? And he was like, yeah. And I said, well, I've asked this question to 5 different doctors over the last 2 years, and all of them have said no, and you're saying yes. So it's always good to communicate to the professional services. They're not always going to be right, and they're not always going to give you the best advice, obviously, because they put me on that such a high dose. So it's definitely always go with your gut instinct of how you're feeling. And just know that there's alternatives. There's not that one size fits all to medication. You know, just because someone else has been on medication for 5 years for depression doesn't mean that you have to be. And it is trying to find other things that can help aid you. And I talk it as I'm talking about working alongside it initially, because sometimes then you can, like I said, like get that dose down step by step. I was stupid. I did the cold turkey and I could have died. You know, the trauma I got from that, coming off those tramadol and having to hide that from my children and still have to take them to school while I was cold turkeying, you know, it was an opioid. And so I definitely do research, look at the long-term effects of certain medication. I know it can be a little bit with Google, but, you know, research it as in speaking to your doctor about it, or speak to other people that are going through it. We've got a prescription epidemic in this country, prescription medication epidemic. You see the 60, 70, 80-year-olds walking out the doctors with a massive bag of medication. Some of it is obviously to save their lives, but at the same time, do we need it? Can we use what's grown in the ground to help? I'm a big believer in turmeric and doing these little sort of ginger sort of shots every morning, and looking at like mushrooms and things like that, like not obviously ones that are illegal.
Yeah, let's just caveat that, you know what I mean? It's
However,
true.
I'm a big believer in that as well, but I won't talk about that because I'm not professional. But there are so many different mushrooms that can help aid physical and mental health. That you can find tinctures like CBD oil that you can take every day that really can help. I'm sort of my pain now is so controlled because I'm in control.
Yes, that's it there though, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
he's understanding you.
Yeah, we let that, you know, when we're on, we let that be overtake us, I think, sometimes with the medication. But yeah, you've definitely got to sort of speak up about it. And I think there is still that stigma of around medication. Do I need it? You know, will my mood, you know, it's quite scary. Will my mood go down? Will it go up? And it's a horrible, I think the depression and those times when we're suicidal or whatever we're going through and we're given medication in the first place, that's a scary step to take. So I think we hold a little bit of trauma then when we want to come off of it.
Yeah.
And there's that sort of cycle.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've spoken to many guys that are on medication, women as well that are on medication. And you know, there's it helps. I've never had medication for depression or anxiety or for, you know, my moods and stuff personally, because I know that when I'm around a drug, doesn't matter what it's like, there's no off button, you know, in that sense. And so for me, you know, I understand that some people do, You know, I totally get that, and that's how it is. And you know, there's a combination. You know, some people can take medication and they can do therapeutic work as well. You know,
Yeah,
some people will stay away from medication and they'll do more organic, earthly kind of
yeah,
stuff. Some people will use exercise. There's different things for different people, and I'm a strong believer that just because something doesn't work for you doesn't mean to say that something won't work for you. You know, go and explore it. Ask questions, because the more you ask questions, the more you start to understand you. I tried this and it didn't work. I felt like this. Okay, so you're aware of that now. Okay, so what, you know, what could you try? I tried exercise, but I don't like that. Okay, so was it the instructor? Was it the gym, or did you just didn't like the exercises? You know, really pull it to pieces. Really
yeah,
kind of dig in and go like, why? Why don't I like this? Is it because someone told me before that they didn't like it? I believed them and I made that my narrative. You know, these are all things that we've kind of taught ourselves, but based on being around other people. Unless you tried it yourself, it's
yeah,
not your knowledge. It's secondhand knowledge. Do you know what I mean? So try it, you know, and all them things. I know you're a massive, massive advocate for the gym and exercise.
yeah,
Massive for you.
yeah.
And do you, with obviously being in that environment, and you see a lot of people in there that are focusing on one thing, which is to physically make themselves look differently. And obviously, some of them know the benefits of how it makes them feel mentally as well. How did you get into the gym? What was it about the gym that made you go, actually, I found something here?
Again, like as you said, like this, it's looking at alternative ways. So I started looking at how exercise could help my chronic pain, and how if I'm not on this tramadol and is my pain gonna increase? But actually going to the gym and lifting heavy weights has actually decreased my pain, because there is that connection with the mind and the body. So, and breathing as well. Like I don't, you know, Ash from Breath is Bridge. He was saying about certain breathing techniques. You can actually send messages to the pain, the adrenaline spikes to the pain. So there's so much. So always look at combinations. There's not going to be one thing on its own that's going to help. You find that little combination toolkit, and you put all those little things in there that work, and maybe adapt things. I mean, I go to the gym 5 times a week. I work in the gym. It's my second home, but there is such a stigma still attached around these guys that are walking in looking like buff, that they don't give a shit, or they're hyper masculine, but they're not.
No.
We need to get away from this stigma. Most of those guys that are in the gym stop the shit, and they come in and they'll cry in the reception, have a coffee with me. And yeah, I'm very lucky that I go to an independent gym that is, we class as a bit of a misfits gym, because there's so many different types of people that come, and I would say at least 50% of them are there for their mental health.
Yeah.
You know,
It's I'm always surprised by the fact that if you show a man a bit of space and you tell a man about something that you've been through, they will talk to you. From as long as I've been able to communicate with people, people tell me things. And they always say, there's something about you. You always ask me about me. And I'm like, well, because I'm talking to you. You know, I didn't really give it any weight. You know what I mean? And it's only as you get a bit older and you start to learn, and you know, you get taught stuff and you go back to college and you learn all this sort of shit and you think, oh, actually, you know what I mean? But there's the one thing that I found is I can have as many qualifications as I want, but the experiences I went through, that's where you connect with people, because it's true. You don't read that in a book. You know, you can't pretend that you're projecting something or feeling something that you've experienced if you read it in a book. You know, very, very few people can connect with that. I can put myself in a situation where I'm building a picture of what I'm reading in a book, but those feelings and them sensations don't come with that. Do you understand what I mean? And so this is where I'm going to link in now to the Men Against Mountains. If that's all right, if we can just touch on
yeah,
that a little bit. I know this is
yeah,
about you, but this is quite a big part of you now, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah, it is. It's my focus. Like, and I think my mental health keeps in a good place, because I'm at the stage in my life now that I wanted to give back. We know that the power of sharing our own story, but we also know the power of being present for another, like you just said. And just those most simplest conversations of asking someone how they're doing. Like, as I say, someone walk into the gym, and I go, how you doing? Like, you're looking a bit tense in your shoulders. And I'll open the conversation and go, no, are you all right? You know, and just that will just like, they're like, yeah. And they'll tell me everything that's going on. And it's, you know, it's, yeah, it's just how we ask. And I think how we ask is most important. Like you said, when you ask those questions and
Yeah.
being present for another. And I do believe that's what these communities that we have merged, all entwined with each other through our own communities, like what's happening in the backbone of the mental health support system now. It's because we're holding space for people, and we're
Yeah.
just giving that simple thing of some time to somebody.
Yeah, that's it right there. And so for those of you that are not aware, those of you that are listening right now, Mel runs a page called Men Against Man's Movement. Okay, it's a page that is run by a woman, but is popular with men. Predominantly, what are we talking? 60-40, 70-30?
80-20.
80-20. There you go. And she's been running it successfully for 4 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the different plethora of men that you have on that page that contribute. You know, it's an open page that people contribute, and you've created this community now where I have connected with quite a few of the guys on there. They become friends of mine, and likewise. And what it's done is it's given us this space and to talk in a language that we've been scared to talk in, which is about being open, you know, and it's about sharing. And I think the one thing that a lot of us, and I'd like to think that I can speak to quite a few of them, is we're not judged and we can trust. Trust is a big thing. When someone breaks your trust, doesn't matter how old you are, what it was for. When someone breaks our trust, it's really difficult for you to trust people. And this is me speaking from my experience and from people that I've spoken to, is trust. A man has to trust in order to release anything.
Yeah.
Because if we can't trust, we're not saying shit. Because we don't trust. We don't trust what you're going to do with that information. Because when we tell someone something about ourselves as a man, what we're doing is that we are making ourselves vulnerable. We're showing the weakness that we've been told not to show. And we're talking about stuff that we've been told not to talk about, and we're adding feelings to that, which is something else that we've been told not to talk about. So that's a big, massive thing for a man to do, is go, I'm struggling and I don't know what to do. That simple sentence can make or break a man, depending on who they tell it to. You know what I mean? And you've created this space where we can go and say that. And then what it does is it builds us up. And it empowers us, and it gives us courage, and it gives us strength. And then we connect with another geezer that's talking the same thing, and it sounds like us. And all of a sudden, we've got these people there that are supporting us, that are dropping us a message going, how you feeling today, mate? You all right? And what's going on? And I see this, and I said, because they're starting to be aware, we're starting to look at that person because we've connected, and we can see there's different changes in them, positive or negative. And that's how it started. But you gave us that space. And so I just want to say thank you from me and everybody else within that space for seeing us and for hearing us, because it's really important, because you've encouraged us to talk and create our own little communities and little pockets of tribes, or whatever you want to call them, where we can go off and do the same thing. And I think it's only fair that we kind of pay that forward, Mel, because, you know, without you, a lot of us wouldn't have had that space, and without you, a few of us wouldn't be here today. You know what I mean? So it's really important that for me, that I pay that forward to you. But in regards to the Men Against Mountain movements, has that changed your life?
As I said, like before, I feel very fortunate being a woman in that space, and thank you for those kind words, because that's got me a little bit tiffy.
Listen, credit where credit's due, man.
That's you know, it's such a simple thing that I do, but it has a powerful effect. And as I said, I really wish I knew, or I'd asked those questions a lot earlier to men as I've been growing up through my life, because there's I don't know, but there's just this natural barrier between men and women, and in society, that men feel devalued, and women are, I don't know, I can't even explain how women are now compared to they were 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But the society has changed so much, especially in the last 20 years. And whether we're taking on different roles, I just want to bridge that gap between the genders. And I just think me being in the middle of that has helped in some way. Because a lot of the men will say, well, I couldn't speak to my wife before I spoke to you about the things I'm telling you now. But now I feel like I can talk to her because I feel like I'm not got that stigma. She's not going to actually look at me any differently, or he's not going to look at me any differently. Just because I'm being more open about how I'm feeling. And the worst thing I've done is kept that to myself, because I was so scared of how he or her would have looked at me differently. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things we need to get over now is self-stigma as much as societal stigma. How we think one of the closest people in our life is going to react to something we tell them.
Yeah, but that's so true. I mean, you see, but again, it's about how we're brought up, isn't it? You know, as women, you know, you're kind of brought up to compete against other women for the attention of other people.
Yeah.
Whereas men, you're kind of brought up to protect and provide at all costs, even to yourself. Do you know what I mean? And it's a very, very draconian way of viewing life, you know, whereas, you know, people having children now, and they're encouraging them to talk. They're encouraging children to, you know, when you have a kid that rebels against what you're telling them, it's because their belief is a lot stronger than yours towards them. And we don't see that. We just see a kid that's acting up, doesn't do as it's told. Well, then listen to that kid, man. You know, he's kind of telling you something. He's not got a lot of variety in words, but what he's trying to say to you is, I ain't you. So nurture me. You know what I mean? Don't nurture a smaller version of you. And then I think also as kids, we're encouraged to be curious, ask questions, talk, connect. But as adults, we're encouraged to not be curious, don't talk, don't connect, keep things to yourself. And and that's what needs to change. Be curious, ask questions. You know, why do I feel like this? Do you feel like this? You know, why do I find it difficult to say this? Why is this word hard? Why is it so and so? Little things. You know, internally, I'm probably about 7. Externally, I'm 49. And I'm happy with that because I can bounce between the both, which gives me so much space to learn and understand. You know, if I want to lay on my settee upside down with my feet in there, I'll do it. But because I was told not to as a kid,
I get
you're
that.
conditioned. Do you understand what I mean? And so you have to kind of iron out some of those creases so it suits you in that sense. And I think with the men that use your group and use you as a soundboard, they are understanding it from a different perspective. You know, she's not my wife, but she's a woman. You know, this is what I'm getting from the woman in my life, and I don't know how to respond to that or what to say to that. So I'll ask you first, you know, and you've given that space. I've got younger sisters, but I wouldn't ask them advice on certain things because we wasn't brought up that way. So I've got to find a different avenue to explore. But as we've got older, our relationships have changed because we've started to shine as people. You know, it's mad, isn't it? You know, if we're born, we evolve. We go through the things that we go through, get to a certain age and think, shit, I need to unpick all this crap. You know what I mean? And then that's what your life worth is from that point onwards. It's the work, like the life of self-discovery. We start to discover who we are and what we need. So for the platform, for the Men Against Man movement, I'm going to keep saying that as many times as I can. I'm going to keep squeezing it into this. Have you seen any changes within the culture regarding mental health in general, just through the guys and the women that connect with you and share?
Yeah, I think people are starting to look at more ways of reforming mental health. Like, you know, I think I'm quite guilty of this. When I first started the Men Against Mountains, that I was surrounded by and influenced by what I call mental health fluff.
Right.
Where it's the same information regurgitated year after year. every year on Suicide Prevention Day, it's the same stuff regurgitated, and yeah, it's awareness, and that's needed in the mental health space, awareness and teaching people and educating people, but to make real big changes in mental health reform and in suicide prevention, and especially male mental health, because the suicide rates are so high, is we now need to take action. There's no point us keep talking about the same old stuff unless there's going to be some action behind it. And that's why some of these conversations, like with George from the Tin Man, with Susie, with some of the other organisations that I'm seeing, are really trying to think out of the box now. Because the last 5 or 6 years, not a lot has changed. If we can't get those suicide rates down, then what do we need to do to change it? Because they're not changing right now.
Yeah.
So I am seeing lots of men taking responsibility and accountability and opening up to help at their peer groups. And, you know, these are what, not a class of normal men. They're not mental health advocates. They're not running pages like what we do, but they are taking the responsibility, and that starts within our homes, in our workplaces, in our schools. And there's so much information out there, you know, and there's so many things that need to be changed as well. So it's really hard to explain everything that needs to be done, but we are chipping away at it. So I'm hoping by this time next year, or the next Suicide Prevention Day, that there are more different types of posting and not the same thing being regurgitated. Because how many times do we need to hear the same old stuff? Because it's not working.
No, and I agree with you on that. I think I've got to a point in my life now, you know, after kind of doing this for 3 or 4 years, I'm thinking I need to say something different, because I feel sometimes that I get trapped in that cycle.
Yeah, we do.
You know, and it starts to impact me, and it makes me feel bad about myself. And then I think to myself, and then all that self-doubt and all that stuff, and I'm like, why? And then I realize it's because I'm still sitting in that space, and I'm progressing because I'm reaching more people, but I need to change my story. You know, I need to give my story more of hope. Okay, so I know I've been through that, I know I've achieved that, I know I'm here, but what now? You know, and I think a lot of the guys that we speak to, it's not necessarily the reaching out, because by engaging or DM with somebody is reaching out. That for somebody is the biggest step.
Yeah.
It's but what now? What support's there for us? What services are there for us?
Yeah.
What facilities are there? How do I access them? What do I do? How's it going to be? And this is where we start to catastrophize things in our head again, because we base it on something that we've seen, and then we start to build around that, rather than going in there and going, right, my expectations of this is, I'm hoping I'm going to learn something about myself. Do you know what I mean? Rather than they're going to fix me, they're going to give me a pill, they're going to give me a shot. It doesn't work like that. You know, you have to do the work. Like, you have to do the work. And that was one of the things that I didn't realize at the beginning, was I had to put the effort in. My actions needed to match what was coming out of my mouth. And if it wasn't, change it.
Yeah. So this is what I think is the most upsetting thing that I still find really hard in this space to get my words out, is that when you find you're having a conversation with a man and he's putting all that effort in, Lee, and he's doing everything he can to make his life better, but then there's still that wall there because of whether it's systemic change that's needed, or the family court reform, or him being able to receive the help for him to get better. And there's still those walls. You know, George from the Tin Man is making such amazing, he's speaking his mind, and he's making people feel uncomfortable in this space. And I'm so pleased that he's making me feel like I'm doing the right thing as well when I do my posts, and they probably don't get as many likes because of the subject matter, but it's real talk. And when you get a man that's been going through the court system for the last sort of 5 to 10 years trying to get to see his kids, and his kids are turning now into adults, and he's missed their whole life because he can't see their kids. He's saying to me, what is the point? I'm doing all this work and I'm doing this for me, but I am still broken and I still don't want to live my life because my kids aren't in my life. It's so hard to be able to then give that. I do give that support because I still hold that space for them and I'm there for them. But you can see how like it's making me upset now because we need to make those changes. You know, the Mental Health Act, 40, how old is that? It's not, we need to reform these things to help more people. We need to change the family court system so men are supported, because these life challenges are still being challenged. There's no resolve at the end of it, Lee, and that's why I think we're still losing men to suicide.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything you just said then, you know, I'm not even going to try and pull that out to pieces. It's fact. You know, the facts speak for themselves. You know, the suicide rate is not dropping. You know, the suicide rate within the construction industry, where 2 men per working day take their lives, that's not dropping.
No.
You know, we're going out, we're doing the work. We're going out and we're showing, talking, exchanging, connecting, you know, and it is working, but that I'm going to do this because, you know, that reaction is what we need to change. Try to give people, you know, a different choice. Like you said, hold that space for them. You know, there's lots of reforms that need to be done. There's lots of adjustments that need to be done. There's lots of things that need to be looked at in a way that society in general looks at certain individuals, you know, and certain subjects, certain situations. You know, I don't think one paintbrush paints everything.
No, exactly.
We're all different, you know, and I think until they sort that out, it's up to us to give those people that space that they need to offload and not feel burdened by it, you know, to let them know that somebody does care and that, you know, we are championing you and you're ruining your corner, you know, that's all we can do, that kind of sense. But you're right in what you said also in regards to, you've got to shake it up.
Yeah.
Like, you have to shake it up.
We've got to
here in the first place.
Things, yeah. And I think, you know, like you said, like there's been some massive changes in the last 10 years. More people are talking about it, and I think this community and that's rippled out is now the backbone of support. And I'm sure that those suicide rates would be a lot higher if we weren't doing the work we're doing now. You know, this awareness, the support, being there, holding space for people, you going on site and talking to. I'm sure that too would be more. But we're still not getting it down. You know, the suicide. There's still people that we're not reaching. Maybe that's part of it as well.
Yeah, and there's probably a lot that goes unrecorded as well. I mean, over 70% of suicides are men. You know, like, that's just a fucking ridiculous stat. Ridiculous. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And yet we as men are still struggle to talk to other men about how we're feeling. So we are part of the cause and part of the effect.
Yeah,
do you know
absolutely.
what I mean? Like, we really are. And we have a responsibility to each other. But that doesn't mean so that we've got to save everybody. It's about helping people save themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, in that sense. And I know I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I know I am. You know, there's no doubt in that whatsoever, in some sort of capacity, you know, in that sense. But I still am surprised every day at what some of these people go through. And they still get up in the morning and still carry on as if nothing's happened. And they try to adapt to it. But they don't adapt, they just accept. This is the way life is. And, you know, and if we could just kind of show them a little bit, maybe just reposition them slightly and allow them to see things differently, that can help. You know, it really can.
Yeah. So many branches.
Yeah.
You know.
And the thing is, on those branches, make things grow. You just got to nurture it with the good stuff. You know what I mean? Mel, where can people find you?
On Instagram and Against Mountains, the movement. I added the movement to it. I might take it off.
I think it's brilliant. I think it is.
You did like the movement. I don't know. I've changed it quite a few years, but I'm seeing loads of movements now.
But you are movement. That's what you are.
Yeah, I know. but there's loads more now. So I'm thinking, I like to be a bit more unique.
Yeah, but that name in itself
Yeah,
encapsulates life, men against
yeah,
madness. You know, we have to overcome them to get to the peak in order to come down and start again.
yeah.
You know, life is not linear, so I think it's a good name. Mel, you know I love you, don't you?
I love you too.
You know that I think you are absolutely fabulous in what you do, and I just can't thank you enough. You know what I mean, for what you're doing. Have you got anything up and coming? Any events? Anything in
Yeah.
regards to Men Against Mountains?
Well, was meant to take these last 2 weeks off the page to get a few things in motion. I am going to start my groups locally again. So I'm going to do a gym group um, where it's happening in our gym anyway, but for men that probably that are in my local area that don't go to my gym or whatever, I'm going to introduce them. So I might do some sort of event, a weekly event, so we can get the guys together and work out together, and then sort of you can almost leave them to it. Then I used to do it. We used to do boxing, like pad work and stuff, and then I had the talking groups as well. So I'm going to start them back up again. We've got the WhatsApp group as well that's popping, which is I'm not facilitating. I've got a couple of lads that are facilitating the group, which is really nice, and that's where I'd like to go. Really, is have my little facilitators all over the UK starting their own groups up, Men Against Mountains groups. I think that's the next step for Men Against Mountains.
I've had some really good feedback about that WhatsApp group.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, people
Really good
leaving and
feedback.
coming back, and it's. Do you know what it's not? What's nice about it? I started it just before Christmas, and it was because I was, the influx over Christmas time, situational loneliness, and I know I probably get more lonely over those sort of times and summer holidays when the children and you're missing those events and stuff. So I just thought, I'll get a few of the lads together and we'll just have a chat. But it's not a massive group because I think I'm going to have to take it to another platform if it gets any bigger, if that makes sense.
They get to Discord. That seems to be the new one at the moment.
Yeah, I have got Discord set up. I've actually set
Have you?
Men Against Mountains already up. I did it about a year and a half ago. And then my own procrastination, just, can I do it?
That's another podcast, right? You know, we
I
could be
know, but
procrastination
yeah,
pals.
I sort of, not the self-doubt as such, but it's just, have I got the time and blah, blah, blah. But the WhatsApp group's nice because a couple of the lads that have been actually one of my two original followers, really. Yeah. So they weren't friends before I started Men Against Mountain, but they have become really good friends now. So
Yeah.
they're facilitating the group, and we're going to do some Teams calls and things like that. Just see where it can go and what's needed from speak to the other guys in the group, what they want, ask them what they need, and and learn from that and see what else we can do. But there's so many now.
Here's something I'm happy to do is I'm happy to kind of maybe lead some coaching groups.
Oh, that'd be great.
Right, seriously, you know what I mean? Like, listen, as I say to everybody, we're passing on knowledge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do it for a living, but I'm happy to, provide that sort of stuff on that sense. So let me know what you need, man. If I can do it, I'll do it.
Right. I'll have a think about it. I've spoke to Mark, who I had on the live the other week, and he's asked me to do like a vision board. So I'm trying to get this vision board, and it's a really good tool to use. I've never even thought about it. I used to do them at school, like vision boards and stuff in art, and you don't just have to do it about Men Against Mountains or Lee Anderson. It's actually about the whole of your life, about your friends and your family and everything, and how that all links up. So I'm putting that together now, and I think that's a really good thing for me then to visualize where I want to take Men Against Mountains on that part of it. So I'm taking other people's knowledge and learning from that is amazing. So yeah,
it's exciting times.
Yeah.
Are you looking after yourself?
Yeah, I am actually. Saying I had shingles. I took 2 weeks off the page to just reset because I said Christmas is quite intense, as you know, on when you're providing support for people. And I haven't had any time off since last summer. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to have a couple of weeks off and get shingles, don't I?
Was that part of the plan? No, you know what I
No,
mean?
no. But I'm back at the gym this week. I feel so much better in myself. I've been to the doctors. I've got my prescription, my meds dropping down again as well. So I'm my own little personal journey still, and still trying to navigate it and
Yeah.
explore. I like the word explore.
Yeah, I think we all are, ain't we? You know, I'm on the adventure of a lifetime. You know,
Yeah.
every experience is something. But that brings us to the end. I mean, we can still chat if you want. But it was, you know what? It was really nice to get to know you. You know, it really was. I know you know, and I know things about you that I didn't know now. And I understand that whole journey with where you was, what you went through, what you experienced, how you healed or are healing, and how you're now passing on. You've turned that pain into knowledge that you're now passing on through the page, and also to yourself and the people that are around you. You know, and I think the best people to learn from are the people that heal because they understand.
Yeah, there are actual like-minded jobs now in the NHS. You can actually become a like-minded advisor. So I think this is the way that we can like really help more people in our local communities as well as online. You know, they do merge.
Yeah.
And that's just there's such a refreshing thing about since Men Against Mountains and now seeing all these groups popping up all over the UK with men actually leading them and saying, right, we're not standing for this anymore. We're gonna become this tribe. It's just so amazing to see. But you know what I wanted to add, which, if that's okay,
Yeah, of
is
course
that
it is.
since I've gone through my talking about my traumatic experience through the abuse, was how many men are going through it. How many men go through it, and I didn't have a clue before I shared this openly to people through conversations. You know, when I have these DM conversations and I speak to men and they say that they're going through it right now or they've been through it, I am shocked at the numbers.
Hang on 2 seconds.
Yeah, no problem.
The dog barking. She's done that in every podcast episode now. So,
But
you know
yeah,
what I
I
mean?
just wanted to put that out to just say, especially to to anyone that's going through it, please just reach out to somebody and tell them, because it goes on behind closed doors, and I think it's just so very important to put that out there. And I'm here obviously for anybody that would like to talk about it.
Yeah. Mel has got a very good
Yeah.
ear, and she does make space for you as well. And she's right. You know, sometimes we stop ourselves from reaching out because we're scared of what's on the other side. And sometimes all we need is just to talk about what's in our head and to rationalize it. You know, sometimes just emptying your head with somebody that's happy to listen is the start. You know, it really is. Because when you empty it, it leaves a bit of room for you to think about things differently. Mel, you are a fucking legend.
As you are.
You are a legend. Listen, seriously, if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't be doing half the things that I'm doing because your page inspired me. I didn't know you was a woman. I didn't know you was a woman at all. I just found this page. It looked very, what I want to say, masculine, but it looked very inviting and non-judgmental. And it's really weird how you judge things, isn't it? And then when I started to read some of the posts and read some of the comments and look at some of the people that you were following and people that were following you, and that it was all predominantly men, and what they were saying, I was like, I ain't the only one. So thank you.
I still get called bro.
But thank you, seriously, thank
Oh
you
no, thank
for
you.
helping me, because you know you gave me the courage, man, and now look at us, you know, like we're out there kind of smashing the fuck out of this stigma, and we've still got a long way to go,
Yeah.
but you know, things like this, collaboration, connection, talking, and supporting, you know, that's what it's all about. That's it. I have nothing else to say. I could talk for hours, but I'm very conscious that you know,
No, I just want
you've
to
got a life.
say thanks, Lee, because you are one of my favourite humans ever. You really are. I've learned so. This is the thing; it goes both ways. I've learned so much from you, and what I want to say is that you've always given me a different take on everything. Whenever I've spoken to you about stuff, you always make me see something different, and that I can only ever be eternally grateful for that, because yeah, you've taught me so much as well. It's crazy. It's lovely. It's like it's how we reciprocate from each other, but it's yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If I don't know probably whether I'd still be doing Men Against Mountains if I hadn't come across you, because you given me those pushes and those little kicks up the backside over the years and stuff. So to believe it, keep believing in it of what I've been
Yeah.
doing as well.
People inspire people. People need
Yes.
people. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and we do. We can't function without them. As much as we like our own time, we still have to go out and connect at some point. And that's it. That's how I see it. You know, people can make us feel bad about ourselves. People can make us feel good about ourselves. Stay with the people that make you feel good. They're the
Yeah.
ones that want to see you grow. Okay, Mel, I'm going to let you go because I know that you're busy, but
Yeah. I'm gonna
just for
you
one
go
last
stop
time,
in.
thank you so much for your time, and
Thank
I will
you.
speak to you soon.
Will do.
Appreciate you, love.
See you later.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to leave a review and subscribe.